to go?
Yeah.
Tony Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank
No problem.
6 p.m. last night.
Yeah.
Very short. So we normally crack open a beer. I did a pretty selected these beers. This is new, so I can find anything. Obviously, Trooper.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Jar's dry. Are you dry?
Detox. I'm on detox now. The World Cup's finished.
Sorry.
Promise the missus. Detox for a while.
There we go.
And cheers.
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 Cheers. Look after yourself.
We've obviously not met before.
No.
We've spoken previously on a couple of years back on social media.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically. I think it was just about RV. That's right. I was going to see Jared in Warwick. This is the year before last.
Yeah.
What pub were we at? We were at a pub nearby.
I think you were the Rose and Crown.
And you put something on Facebook that said you
said pub long.
Warwickshire, yeah. But
Yeah.
you already had a couple of different pubs.
I was well gone at home by then.
Well, I just get straight to it. I knew Conrad.
Fantastic.
He came onto that tour at the beginning and went up to Quadrat for a bit. I knew him both actually. You knew.
I didn't. I got out just before. I got out summer 2010, July 2010. But I knew Lewis Hendry. Well, I was in A company with him.
Yeah, that's right.
We was A company together,
right,
weren't
yeah.
we?
I think Conrad was A company before he went into.
He was, yeah.
Sport company, wasn't he?
Yeah. Support thing.
Not sport.
Did you go to Sport D company?
No, he went to machine guns. Didn't
That's right. Yeah, and he got attached to A company in Quadrat, didn't he? A cheers for your boy.
Cheers.
Yeah.
And Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turn
and
back.
Lewis. Cheers, the boys.
You I don't know if it's the same for yourself, I think it's the same for you. As time goes on with certain things, what I found with the Afghan tours is that your memory erases a lot of stuff. No, it doesn't erase it. It blocks it from popping up.
Yeah.
Good things and bad things. And bad things. And when I was driving you earlier, I was coming back from work earlier, on the way before you picked me up.
Yeah.
I remember they were both awesome guys. But I knew Lewis Hendry more than I knew Conrad because Lewis had been in the platoon with Jared and I when it was the platoon sergeant they company before that tour. And then we went out the tour. I was trying to think through what was it about Conrad out there, because I knew him for a short space of time. When I was in a different patrol base on that tour, but I was in like the HQ, and I used to bat out to the different checkpoints and that, where the guys were, and where Conrad was, Quadrat was tasty, should we say? It was slightly different to the other places in the nature of the threat and the way that they had to. It was inside and out. It was high threat, and what I went to Quadrat several times. One of the problems with it was to drive there was like one route there, one route back. It was a stretch for about a kilometre where none of the checkpoints could get eyes on, so it's completely open to the Taliban laying IEDs. It was just a nightmare. So the preferred mode of transport, if you like, was frankly the pony we patrolled up. It was a couple of K. That was for the green zone. But when you travel at well, you get so when Conrad went to go into that place, it wasn't on the back, his Bergen on the back of a wagon. It was with his Bergen and tabbing through the Ulu trying to get there. So you're getting the contact on the ground. It's not a case of you just got your webbing on, you light scales, you got your Bergen, you throw your house off your back, it's all your kit in that you give living in the next 6 months, and you get into contact and you finish it up and you get back on. It was an epic to get there. And because of that isolation, what I always think about with Quadrat when there was 3 or 4 other CPs, that it wasn't just only a different beast because of the way that they had to operate and the nature of the threat there. The threat was high everywhere, but the nature of it there was slightly different. It was different to me. It sticks in my mind more because of how close knit they were in that CP. Super, super, super close knit. And it was slightly more than it was in other checkpoints, which you think, well, if there's more of them, then they're going to be less tight. But they weren't. They were super tight. You had Duncan Armstrong there, and also with it, which goes against sort of being so tight knit, is that you had a mix of different units because because at that time the battle groups always had to be bolstered by other units, not just your organic like Power Rangers at the time or Marines or your Royal Anglians or whatever it was. You get all sorts. So Royal Anglians would be backfilled by, for example, Staffords and different people like elements here and there. So you all of a sudden you haven't got people that have been training with for 7, 8, 9 years, just them. You've got newcomers in, and depending on how the guys get on and their abilities, depends how close knit they become. Quadrat, like I said, they were tight. And I was trying to think back to what made Conrad stick in my mind. But like I said, I met a couple of times going up there back and forth between there and Kamar. And I remember being a cheeky git. He was a private and I was a sergeant, but that didn't make any difference to him. He didn't, he'd do his job really well. Well, at the time I didn't know that, I only saw him in camp. But he had banter in him. He didn't care. If you give him a bit of flack, he would give it back, And that's an issue that stuck in my mind.
Oh,
yeah. He was shocking.
Yeah.
And probably why him and Lewis got on so well, because Lewis Henry was exactly the same. Remember? He was exactly the same.
Yeah.
And but then we went on, and I went up there and spent a bit of time there. And I was trying to assist with one of the threats they had, and we had to go out. I've forgotten this. Like I said, this is one of the things when I thought, well, you come on, and as time goes on, a certain stimuli will pop up memories that you completely forgot about in the story. You think, Jesus, I forgot it even happened. And they had a, what they were calling it, well, they had a sniper threat there, and they were having real issues with it. They weren't having issues with it. The guys are doing everything spot on, but slightly less manpower needed, slightly less, just a lot of ground to cover. That they couldn't pinpoint this guy, and I went up, and one of the tasks I had was to try and was to go and put in an ambush to get a guy. And at the time, this is all when all the red tape hit people. They were trying to reduce the casualties and all this. And the minimum you could go out the ground with, minimum you could go out and do an operation was 12 people, minimum 12, which is a lot of people, right? If anything go above that, we'd have to go up the chain of command to get cleared. And I wanted to take myself and 4 out for 5 of us, because of where I wanted to go in the village, how I wanted to get in there. Any more than that would have been, any less than that would have been lunacy, and any more than that would have been too many. We would have not got in. And so the 4, I was able to handpick my 4. And like I said, I'd forgotten about this, and I was able to handpick my 4. And I spent, I think, about a week at Quadrat at that point. I've been out in a few patrols with them, with the guys in the platoons, and there was a select few jobs I needed in the team that was going to go out and do the ambush with me. And I needed different people for different things, but obviously I got to handpick them, and this is what reminded me of Conrad, why I thought, why he was a good guy. Conrad was one of the guys I picked.
Wow.
Of 4 of all the people. Don't get me wrong, the commanders and the different LMG gunners, different snipers and that were there. They're all amazing. But for the people who were there, Conrad was one of the guys I chose. Which sticks up my mind even more when you think that that was Conrad's first Afghan tour, was it not?
Yeah.
So he was by no means long in the tooth, but if you go off not the level of horse, it's the long thing. He was not by no means long in the tooth. But for me to have selected him, I can't remember specifics, but for me to have asked his commander if I can have him to go in the ambush, to me, looking back, I can't remember the specifics, speaks volumes to me. And that operation ended up going up, getting cleared by Whitehall. There's only 5 of us, and we ended up going out. And yeah, he was one of those guys. He did
love that. He did love the fact.
But he was superb. He was superb. He did love it. He did love it. They had it hard there, and guys again. There's people in the world you think you don't realize it until retrospect. You think you are someone that everyone should have met. Everyone should experience you as a person, whether you're a good person or a bad person. You should go and experience. Conrad was one of those. Lewis Henry was one of those. If everyone experienced those people, they'd be better off in some way, shape, or form, just because of the nature of them. I'll turn this into a monologue. That's how I knew what I remember about him.
You talk about Quadrat. They called themselves the Lost Tribe because of that gap and that K in the middle.
I didn't know that.
The Lost Tribe of Quadrat, and that's why they were tight. And when they were being assembled, if you like, in Bastion and sent to the various checkpoints, everybody thought Quadrat would be the quietest, and it was a bit of a dad's army. They had that 40-year-old TA Carpenter, who was part of their crew. I think they made him. He went on the first patrol, and then after that, I think Mouthy Conrad actually just said, "Just make the tea, man. Just make the brews and make sure we got food and stuff." But they, he was a good guy, and they all loved him to death. But they're like, he's just a liability. He's not going to run 100 meters carrying, the jammer and all the ammo and so there's some great stories. And in fact, one of the guys, Chris Burtonshaw, wrote a diary, kept a diary, which at the time, as you can imagine, the blokes ripped him for.
Yeah,
but he did it religiously. We published it on the web and we've printed it as well.
Oh, right.
I've got a couple for you guys to have a look at later. But it's funny because he's clearly a well-educated guy.
Yeah,
but also a private in the parachute regiment. It's brilliant. It's it's got military shit language in it, if you like, in terms of 200 meters down there into MIT. But then you've got the flavour of some cultural language, shall we say? But it's a really great, for us, it's a great record of what they did. Now, there's obviously bits that aren't in there, like for a little bit, things that are out for people's reasons, but it's a great account of what they do. And people who read it actually go, I get this, and I'm in it. It's not like what you two guys went through, but they faced a lot of stuff, didn't they? They were getting contacted most days.
Quadra. Yeah, it was difficult, man. It had like it almost seems like classic to me Afghan situation with a flipping problem fob or a problem patrol base, where you had a buffer of open ground between the compound walls and where the problems would start, sort of village, and when you get into the dash, the sort of desert, nearby the green zone, and that buffer is brilliant because it makes it very difficult for them to get to the walls of your compound. But you try going out and getting across that open ground to go and do patrol, you've got a couple hundred meters to go, where it's a free for all. If you haven't got air support, or and they've managed to get in the village, because that village was completely empty, and they got in there, then it's very difficult crossing that open ground, and they would have to do that every day. And they would do. I mean, one of the ways they do it when they were trying to find that sniper was they would put a vehicle with volunteers on it, and they would put the vehicle in the middle of the open ground because the road went through the middle of the open ground, and they put the vehicle in the middle of the track, right? And they would put snipers, as in the Brits. So the guys at Quadrat, they would put the snipers up in the I can't remember who the snipers were. Briggsy was one of them.
Chris Royal, I think, as well.
Chris Royal, and someone else who should not be named, who's somewhere else now. Yeah. They put them in the Sanger, the tall Sanger. They put the vehicle in the middle of the team on it, and that vehicle in the middle would be the sitting duck. And their job would be to get shot at by the Taliban sniper, so that our snipers could spot them. It was just madness.
And one of them who did that, because he used to back his mouth up with his actions, was Conrad. That's part of his citation for his mention in dispatches. Is they got him.
Didn't know you get on MID.
Yeah, you get on MID. And the first half is that particular incident, because they've been putting the dummies up with the rods, and he's gone by then, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he volunteered to do that.
Yeah.
And he said, because we can spot him now.
Yeah.
And he was just in a note to me later, because I'm like, what are you doing? He's just blew his eventually emailed. And he's like, well, he ain't a great shot. He's really good at getting away. But he's not a great shot. So but they spotted him and killed him. And then there's another bit of his MID is the fact that at 22, only in 3 years in his first tour, he was quite senior in terms of the 3 years in. But as I say, first tour, it was weird. So part of it was, the concentration for a 22-year-old now hanging over the front of the armoured car, going slowly enough so they don't hit IEDs, but quickly enough that they're not going to get surrounded, and to then recover all the things they needed to recover. So they did that. And as people read that, that's one of those things that gets you, isn't it? It's 22-year-old kids, but he was one of the older. A couple of 18-year-old guys straight out of
crazy, really.
He didn't. I think Mike didn't strike me as 22. I always thought he's older than that, but he's ahead of his years. But that's that's down to his capability and his personality. Apart from when he was being a cheeky gobshite.
Yeah, he's done that. He's done that, by the way, since he was a baby. So,
who does he get that from?
Yeah, probably. I'll blame his mother. But authority was there to be challenged.
Yeah.
We went back to his school, which is a Quaker school. We're not Quakers, but he went to a Quaker school, and they obviously struggle with war, Quakers. So they built a peace garden for him, and we went back to his school to talk to the kids just before they went and did a battlefield tour, which again is crazy, isn't it? It's Quakers and they're going on a battlefield tour.
I don't know what Quakers are. Why would Quakers struggle with?
They don't believe in war. They're a very peaceful organisation. So
Christian.
Yeah, but a great example was in World War I and II. They had peace ambulances, so they wanted to serve, but they didn't want to bear arms. Right. So they went and rode around in the equivalent of Red Cross ambulances. The two famous Quakers were the Cadbury brothers.
Because all that area is Quakers, isn't it? There's no alcohol and stuff around there.
But one of them served. He volunteered to fight, and the other one volunteered for the ambulance service. And then afterwards, always regretted not being. So I found this out last week. But we're talking to the kids about that, and there's this peace garden, and his teachers are saying exactly what you did. They said he just used to go to the line. I said, well, he crossed it many times with me, but
What was the aim of going to the school? Just talking about.
Yeah, we were asked to go back. They renovate the peace garden.
Oh, sorry, it's his school, wasn't it? I do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but they it's nice that they do, because they then said, do you mind coming and talking to the kids? Tell us about him. Tell them what he did. Now again, these are 13 and 14-year-old kids, so
it's interesting when you say they're against.
And they're like, eventually, I give it to them straight, because there's no point in not doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite interesting what questions they ask, but. So that was good, but it was the same authority thing. But that was a great school for him, because they always said, and it's worth it with, I guess, guys who joined the paratrooper regiment, they channeled him as opposed to blocking him. So they didn't go, stop that, and they went, you ought to use that doing that. Really. Why don't you play rugby? But
He played rugby, I didn't know.
Yeah, he did.
Did he play for Claverdon down the road?
No, his rugby was mainly at school and a little bit in the army. Football was his game. He was a semi-professional at Racing Club Warwick before he left. So played for all the teams in Warwick. Ajax, Central Ajax was from 6 to 18, and during 17 and 18 he was semi-pro at Racing Club Warwick.
My nephews played for Ajax. Well, they used to play for Ajax.
Who did?
My nephews. In fact, I even went to Ajax trials when I was a kid and got in. Then I ended up not going. It's another story. No, I got in, but I went on holiday and never bothered following up when I got back.
Oh, well, that's how I ended up talking to you about the rugby, actually, because you got rugby for heroes local, haven't you? That's starting to message you to get in touch with them, and you said that.
Yeah. Well, the great thing there, so Old Leamingtonians Rugby Club.
You're involved in loads of stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't. These are neighbours from when Conrad was a kid. So our first house really round here, which is the estate opposite Ajax, and Mike Balance, who's the great guy who sort of runs all that, he'd already started doing rugby stuff, and he did that for Joe Whittaker, who was the parachute regiment soldier, who was a mate of Conrad's and at college with him, and he died on the 08 tour.
Yeah.
Conrad went to his funeral and signed up a month later.
Was he too para?
Yeah. And he was going to go to Sandhurst, and he was doing a tour before he did that. We were friends with Joe's mum and family. Now Kate, his sister, is in the para band. Kate Bent now.
Is she There's only one female, isn't there? There's a couple of females in the para regiment.
Probably one of few.
Yeah.
But so Mike knew Joe's mum as well, so started raising money for that. And then, of course, Conrad, who we'd known since they were 6, grown up with his kids. And we did a couple of charity things while they were out there, which was that was more difficult than afterwards, actually. But Mike's at Old Leamingtonian, so they do this Rugby for Heroes Festival, which has helped benefit our charity for the last, they've done it for 10 years now, and it's benefited our charity for the last 7. But they don't just do the Rugby Festival, which is a weekend as well. They do a golf event in conjunction with us. They've done balls, they've done all sorts, and raised a lot of money for us. And they've raised about $100,000 for all the charities so far.
When you say as, you're talking about 353, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know much about it apart from it's Conrad orientated. So forgive me for that. Again.
Yeah. No, I think it's nice. So they were all numbers, if you remember at the time.
Yeah.
And it, as a, I'm ex-soldier myself, so the 100th, the 200th, like, and then he was the 353rd
person to be killed in Afghanistan.
Right.
And there was a debate. This sounds terrible because he and Lewis were shot together, one bullet.
Yeah.
So Lewis was the 353rd. No, he wasn't. So Conrad died before Lewis. So Conrad was the 353rd. Lewis was the 354th, and there was a little debate about this amongst people. That's just madness.
Okay.
But the one thing, that number just got to us. So actually, you'll see it's not a number.
Yeah.
And that's what we said. 353 is not a number. Neither is anybody else. So that's turned around to reflect that. And then these dots here are for everybody before him and everybody after. And as
sorry for people listening or watching. The logo of 353 is a 3 and a 5, and then the last three is backwards. It faces.
Turned around, yeah. Looks a bit like 3-5-E, but it's a 3 turned the other way, and that's because they're not numbers. So we had two phrases, which are 353 is not a number, neither is anybody else. I say these little 3 dots underneath the logo represent everybody else. But as we withdrew, say this number's a bit scary, but as we withdrew, we were at 453. It's about 456, 457 now because people died of their injuries since. But by the time we left Bastion, it was 453.
Yeah.
And so, when somebody like that dies, he was a big character, and not only our son, but he left a massive hole for everybody. And you think, well, we need to do something. And loads of families jump in and do the charity thing. We didn't want to do that originally, so we did a not-for-profit organisation. We were raising money that could then hand to people.
Yeah.
But it became so successful that you were like, I want to be audited and controlled, and I want to do it properly. So we set up the trust. And the trust was designed to actually help the smaller charities and those who absolutely unconditionally helped us. And we didn't know at the time, because you're going through the grief process. We were trying as hard as we could to keep it all together. Things happened. And eventually went, well, who did that? Because I switched on to, that isn't the MOD, is it? Which you woke up. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, do they? They haven't got cars. They haven't got Ford Galaxies. Who paid for that? Why did we get shipped to the coroner's thing by that? Who whisked us off with a 4-para driver? Yeah. And that was the Afghanistan Trust at the time, Stuart Tootle's trust.
So you talking about after you got told?
Yeah. So lots of things happened in terms of supporting you, and it was just a range of little charities that weren't the headline charities. And you thought, well, they just unconditionally provided you with support, and I know they haven't got pots of money, and the money they've got they're spending. So we wanted to raise money for them, and which we've done. We've raised 620 grand now. Us and our friends and our colleagues. Again, it's a network that you just open up. My brother's piled in with a big contribution of that because he's in the construction industry, and they're all incredibly supportive. But yeah. Now that money's gone to the Afghanistan Trust, will support our paras now, to troop aid at the QE, because again I didn't realise that the blokes came back, they didn't have anything, so they just give them a bag, with the essentials in, because your kit's either in Afghan or in a box. So we support them. Forces support, we looked after bereaved families, and especially wives. So it sounds silly, but they go and do the garden, or they go and do up a room for the kids, and that's because dad's not there, right? So nobody's looking after the garden. Simple, practical stuff. So we bought them a van and cement mixers and cutters and all that. They did a great job. And then we supported Nowzad dogs, the ones who bring all the dogs.
I've seen that. Yeah,
we need to get onto this. The dog.
Yeah.
Come to it.
But the great thing about that is that we call that our lasting legacy project.
The Nowzad.
Yeah. The clinic out there, the vet clinic, is called Conrad's Clinic.
Oh, okay.
It's the most equipped clinic in Kabul. The kids from the university go and train there. But the beauty of it is there are 3 female Afghan veterinarians as opposed to vets. And if you think in 2001, girls weren't allowed on the street, they weren't allowed to be educated. You couldn't have pets, so they didn't have vets. So now we've got these 3 female vets in that clinic looking after soldiers' dogs, or now compound dogs that come back that then go to soldiers all around the world. And it's probably the biggest middle finger you can give the Taliban, I would say.
yeah.
All that work you did, we've now got ladies looking after
Yeah.
soldiers' dogs and giving pets to Afghanis.
Yeah.
And so we do like it. And that's run by an ex-Royal Marine called Penn Farley. And he still goes out every month with his girlfriend.
Yeah, for some reason I assumed it was run by a trooper. I don't know why.
Yeah, but it's fabulous. And then they do all sorts of other great work. So that's our thank you very much on behalf of 456, 57 people. There is a bit of change there.
Where did the name come from? Nowzad.
He
Dogs.
He was based in the
In Nowzad.
In Nowzad.
I assumed the clinic was in Nowzad still. I was thinking, flipping heck, that's brave.
Yeah. Well, so Penn was out there as a sergeant in the Royal Marines, and he broke up a dogfight, which the Afghan National Army and the police had set up. That got to I am breaking up the dogfight. They were pointing at each other, and the dog in the middle of that was this fighting dog he then found in the compound. You can imagine, nasty old thing with his ears cut and his tail cut and all that. But they just sort of found each other, and he brought him home, and he called that dog Nowzad. So Penn ended up with and he'd seen some fights, this boy, but Penn ended up with Nowzad in, Devon, together with lots of other dogs. But he then set up the charity, and he brought back, all the pets on that tour came back. So Sticky the cat and another Pegasus dog and Conrad's dog.
That's right, which was Pegasus, was it not?
Yeah, that wasn't a Quadrat name, but she was the little brown dog in Quadrat.
The Quadrat name was go on.
She's been a PR delight for years.
What was the
shitbag?
Shitbag. I can remember it.
She was named.
Shitbag.
Yeah, people ask for years, and we go, yeah, no, she got a PR name, mate. She's called Peg.
But, used to go out on all the patrols.
She did, yeah. Well, that's one of the things. You hear the stories about her, and sorry if I'm going on, but you hear these stories about her, and you like that. And Conrad said, look, because he was lead scout.
Yeah.
He'd done the ground sign course, and he wouldn't have. You should be machine guns, mate. No, I'll be lead scout if you don't mind. And that way he's in charge of something. But he, Peg, would go out with him. And as he said, she spots stuff as well. And she does it now. And I tell people, and they think you're making it up, that she'll walk up the lane and she'll go, wasn't there, mate? Was it yesterday? That wasn't there.
Yeah.
And luckily she's done it on cue on TV once. And I go, that's what she does. And he said she would. She'd go, you go, luckily I spotted the parlour stones. She didn't like the parlour stones.
On TV, what was that for?
She's been on all sorts. People want to tell the story of the soldiers through the dog.
Yeah.
So she's been on dog rescues, Songs of Praise.
Yeah.
Songs of Praise. She was on the People Remember, the programme that goes out before Remembrance Day every day. And we were actually on Remembrance Day with her, which was just crazy, but brilliant. But because of the dog, people do want to go, well, it's a great story how she got back. But I will briefly, if you don't mind, tell her how you got back, because we heard the story about how she got back. I mean, she's in Quadrat. How are you going to get her back to Warwick? So Penn got hold of the reg. They secured her. So Major Todd had her at Kamar, I guess. No, Kamar. And then she gets on a Chinook, goes into Bastion. She goes into Bastion once, and they all go, what's the brown dog? We'll have to shoot her or throw her away. Luckily, Colonel Coates is at the other end of the radio. No, bring her back. So she went back. Right, we need a plan for this. She goes back on the Chinook.
Colonel Coates.
He was the CO3.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Goodness me, Coates.
Yeah. Hereford, all that. Yeah. Really great bloke. Fabulous bloke. Really great to us. Yeah. But no. Bring the dog back. As I understood it. She goes back on the Chinook. They'd already set it up. She put a military muzzle on her, walked her off. And they paid the ANA to take her to Kabul in a Hummer. So she got this lift. And then ends up at the shelter, and I get a picture from Penn saying, is this her and do you want her? Yeah. Do you still want her? So we did. You tell people this story and you go, no, until I've gone and done the Paras 10. Yeah. And I've regularly then met people who went, oh, no, I took her on the Chinook, mate. There was an officer who was in charge of the Red Devils previously, and he went, I've got pictures. And we now got pictures of it in a Chinook with a nose sticking out of his smock. It's just crazy. Her getting on the Chinook, in the Chinook. With it.
I didn't realise that.
So they pulled out all the stops because and that's the point about the dogs thing. It means a lot. No buddy left behind, as they say, and fab.
So what? They flew her out from Afghan back to.
Yeah, so then she went through all the tests. So she had the DEFRA tests, parvo, and rabies, and all the other stuff.
Yeah, come up clean.
Yeah, I mean, she'd just been eating tinned chicken curry, I guess, most of the time. And she landed back in the June after they all withdrew in the March, April. Was the last.
Bryce Norton.
No, she went Dubai, Heathrow. Penn picked her up, took her to the quarantine kennels. It was the last time you had to do quarantine, so she was in there for 6 months.
Yeah.
But she was visited by us, our in-laws, and Reg blokes.
What do you mean the last time you had to do quarantine?
You have to do quarantine for 6 months normally in Britain, but it ended
the animals
in December 2011. You now only have to. You've got to have had all the certificates, and if there's a doubt, they'll probably be in there for 1 or 2 months. But she did a full 6 month jail term.
She did some time.
Yeah, the blokes are stopping off to see her. Codrat blokes. Where's this kennels, mate? We're going to go and see shit, mate.
Now she lives with you full time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She lives bar to you.
Did she wreck that? Did she wreck the house when you?
No.
You know, was she quite well easy to house train?
Unbelievably.
No way.
And then one of the blokes actually said to me, he said she used to want to leave the compound to go out to the toilet. So we said we'd open the gate. It's a bit mad. We opened the gate for the dog. She'd come back in. She was not an issue house training at all. The only thing we had a big bulldog, British bulldog, Fergie, which was again Conrad's dog. And when she saw him, she freaked. But he didn't know he was a dog, so he just ignored her. And they had a sniff.
She's small. Small.
She is quite small, yeah, for an Afghan dog. She's about that high. She looks like a dachshund with chicken's legs. But, so yeah, she was the compound dog, and she lives with us. And then I went out in 2014 with the BBC. 2014.
I saw some of this. Yeah, go on.
For the withdrawal, and again we wanted to make a program with Nowzad in it as well, and I brought another one back. So we just got 2 Afghans.
Where did you go to? Kabul?
Yeah, they wouldn't let me go to Helmand. There was a BBC journalist there who said, "Oh, I know the local, warlord. We can go out there if you want." I was up for it. And I said, "No." Yeah, you're not doing that. No. Which was sensible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Bastion was still operational now. Well, still operational now, is it not? Bastion. Must be. Let me shut it down. I'll be wrong. What was it like? What was happening in 2014?
It was still there. I went in the October, November. I can't remember. And then they all withdrew by Christmas, didn't they? But the reason for the program was it worth it? And it's always a difficult question, isn't it? And you guys know this more than anybody. And I go, well, personally, no. We lost our son, so it wasn't worth it. But I'll think of the greater good and let's see what happened. And I think a really good thing for the BBC, because you could not trust them at times, I guess. They actually wanted to do it from the point of it was. We've seen a massive change. And the editor of News at 10, I think, had been out there in 2001 and said it was like a medieval village, bombed back to Shakespearean times. So,
it's an interesting point, interesting question. I did was it BBC? I think it was a BBC documentary. It was called. You've probably seen it, "The Lion's Last Roar." So it was a 2-parter. It was called Afghanistan, the Lion's Last Roar ?
I have it recorded.
Yeah, I did that. I was on the second one, and he was interviewing a bunch of people, from officers down to people like myself. I can't remember the line of questioning when we were there. I just remember it being difficult. What we were talking about? It was the first kind of thing I'd done like that, and you again treasures up the old memories, and with certain things you're talking about, it's difficult to talk about. But I do remember the last question they asked me, and they said, well, "Was it worth it?" It was the last thing. And I've been asked that since, and it, to me, it's from what perspective? What are you asking? Was it worth it from whose perspective? What are we talking about? Did we save, in going out and doing what we did we improve people's lives? Disregard for the short term, for the long term. If we went into a village and we were there for a couple of weeks and the Taliban pissed off for a couple of weeks, or they just came in less and they weren't able to go and enact their barbarism on the local villagers for a couple of weeks, But after that, they came back in when we left. But for that couple of weeks, life was a bit better for those people. But then for that village, for that 2 weeks, it was fucking worth it. When you look at it from a strategic point of view, the question for me is, what was the mission? Not what was the spoken mission, go in and make life better, and what was the real mission? Because if the real mission was to go and if the real mission was as is they say it was, and that is to go and provide security. Well, let's take Helmand. Provide. I can't remember the exact words. We provide security for that area, so we can go and get provincial reconstruction teams in, rebuild the schools, make life better, get more women in. Better rights for women. Get children back in education. Get them power 24 hours a day. Get them electricity. Get them a decent government system. Get less corrupt. All the rest of it. And that's what we're going to do. And that's it. But no, it wasn't worth it. You can't. To achieve that, you need decades and decades and decades and decades and decades, if not 100 years minimum, to achieve that, to make it stick. You're changing a culture. You change, and this is whether it's Afghan or Iraq or Libya or flipping UK. You imagine a force coming into the UK and saying and trying to change us to. Let's imagine China. China's communist, right? Is it communist? It's communist. They're coming into the UK, right? They're taking over and they're trying to change the UK into becoming a communist nation. That ain't happening in 10 years. It's not happening in 10 years. You can imagine the resistance.
Yeah.
That's not happening for a long time. It'll happen, but not for a long, long, long time. Massive commitment of troops, massive commitment of non-military, so civilians as well. Yeah. Huge. Not in 10 years, right? And just because Afghanistan is any less, I'm going to say evolved then, any less, evolved as a nation than anywhere else in the world. Yes, it's a third world country, but it doesn't mean you get any less resistance. In fact, it makes it even harder because this, as a society, as a people, across a nation, is so disjointed. They haven't got the communication with each other. So you can change one village, you go over the mountain to the next village, they have a completely different attitude. There's more of them. They're going to be harder to change. It might take another 10 years for them. So was it worth it from that perspective? No. If you look at what some people, including myself, are inclined to believe was the real intention, or one of the real intentions, was from a military and a political perspective, and goes back to which harks back to the reason that the Russians went in 79 to 88. It's the same thing that's happening then. Is Afghanistan, this geographical position, is a vital, what's the word? A vital ground. It's vital ground.
Yeah.
If you want to have influence on certain areas, certain countries near it, let's say Iran, let's say China, let's say certain Russian-oriented nations. If you hold Afghanistan, right, as well as some other places, you've got a massive, massive influence in the outcome of a battle, strategic or political. And that's why I think that's what it was, Afghan. And that's one of the main reasons. The bluff being we're going to try and change the place. No, we're not. If we were, we could pull out in 10 years. Wouldn't have happened.
We're trying to hold it.
Short term, it was worth it. I feel like I'm a better person for it. Worth it. Conrad, Lewis, all the other mates that we lost, and sons and daughters, brothers, sisters, husbands. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. You can't. Too short. It's too short, and it frustrates me because they know this. They They just bluff it with like when we were pulling out. You look at the news. It's all dependent on the news outlet. Yeah. It's good news stories, and we've done this, we've done that. The people who are there and they know how it works. Well, all right, so we went in, we took that town, we changed it. We changed it now 2 years before. We got in and took that town. We've changed it. It's a better place. We pulled out in 2014. Guess what's happening? We've been there 2 years. You haven't changed a thing. 2 years later, the Taliban goes straight back in.
Still.
Yeah. Another issue with it is that goodness me, another flipping monologue. Is that especially with Helmand, because of the kind of culture it is in society, it's largely farming and agriculture, right? Kabul doesn't really impact them. Politics doesn't really impact them. Taxes don't really impact them. The fucking poppies, the drug culture, heroin doesn't really impact them. They produce the same stuff. Like their money coming in, their daily life is still exactly the same, whether the Brits or the Americans or the Russians or the Taliban or whoever are in there controlling it. It's just a question of they could change the rules slightly a little bit, and pay this person money instead of paying that person money, and not that they pay us money, they're just they're not asked. It doesn't impact them enough to want to change to a Western way of life. Again, there you go. You're changing to a Western way of life. Good luck with that. Afghan. It's like trying to change flipping Libya. It's like trying to change Sierra Leone. It's not going to happen. Completely different people. I'm going to stop talking now.
It sounds crazy, but I was glad that Afghan happened because as a soldier, like it's what you train for, isn't it? I'm sure Conrad, I bet he enjoyed being out there, and I bet if he's still here, he would want to go back, because I definitely would. Well, I did, but it was great. And people comes across. It must sound a bit funny when you say to people that you enjoyed being out there. Well, that's what you train for. And looking back at the time in the Paris, they were the best times. Being in operations, the best times. I'd love to go back in the army, but skip all the bits when you're back in the UK and all the crap that goes along with it, and just be on operations solidly. Even though it's really dangerous, you could lose your life or whatever. It's the best time.
He absolutely loved it.
I think every soldier is pretty much like that.
Yeah.
Especially Paris, I'd say, anyway.
Well, and he'd already volunteered to go back.
Yeah.
There was some crackle over the radio about going back in November with one para needed, as you say.
I think Waldo went back, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, no. Or maybe I might be wrong there. I forgot to say.
But both Conrad and Luke Flanagan, his bestie and the other gunner, they were like, yeah, no, we'll come back.
Yeah.
And he said it's simple. He said it's really simple.
Exactly.
He said it's 3 bags, one you eat out, one you sleep in, one you shit in, and you kill the Taliban. That's it. Nobody's trying to rip you off with a mobile phone contract. Nobody's trying to sell you a bloody loan. Nobody's trying.
That's what Conrad said.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I described the past. It's like that's exactly what it is. It's simple. Yeah. It's black and white. Don't get me wrong. It's flipping horrendous, and the worst of times are the worst of times, and you experience that in an indirect way. But you can come back in off one of the the worst contacts you've been in. You can. It could just be one of the toughest times of your life in a million different ways, and you don't scream and shout to get out.
You could have 2 hours off and be ready to go out again straight away, can't you? Even though you've just come in from nearly game. Shit.
I always remember, and I won't go on too long, but one of the things they do at the rugby.
Talk away.
One of the things they do at the Rugby for Heroes is we have a drum ed service, play the last post, do all the other stuff. We have a legion there. All the rugby players line up. Everybody's silent. Fly past from Spitfires and all sorts of stuff, but they read out the names of the Warwickshire boys. Yeah. And one of the first ones on there is Paul Muirhead, which has always resonated with me because I've listened to him. I've heard his name every year, and then obviously with you.
Was he Warwickshire? Was he?
Yeah, Coventry, I think.
I didn't realise that.
If not, Solihull. I can never.
He's close, yeah. So I found afterwards.
And he played rugby for all the local clubs. Nearly all the kids had done something sporty, but you always remember that. And then, of course, the you guys. I always remember watching the Heroes of Helmand programme, where the last pictures of Paul Muirhead and the Fijian guy.
Yeah.
But they're both. Yeah, Draver. But they're both smiling.
Yeah.
That's that people need to recognise.
I was thinking of Hetherington.
When you think of everything you were going through, right? The rest of the bit that gets me is I just want to say, look, you're smiling. Everything you were facing every day.
All again if you had the chance, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
When we were at Emma Sakala, there was a guy. Do you remember Max? There's another Fijian guy. He's a mate of Draver's. Draver had been killed.
Neck injury.
Yeah, Draver had been killed at this point. Like Draver and Muirhead, God bless them. I'm not religious, but God bless them. They've been killed at this point, and a mortar came in. Another fucking mortar came in, and the shrapnel went, and the shrapnel cut Max's throat, slipped straight across, and he came I wasn't there when that happened. We were there. We know I wasn't there actually when that happened, but he came into us after being treated with the medics. Miracle, absolute miracle. Like another millimeter in, he'd be dead. Right? He cut his neck open. He came in with a bandage across his neck, and right across his neck. They put for some. Why did they put him in our room? They put him all in our room. How are you all about? He came in our room, and you know what he's doing? Smiling. So he's having to hold this thing on there, like you're thinking, what's wrong? What the fuck is going on? Smiling. And then the morphine kicked in, and it was even funnier, wasn't it? Oh man, yeah. It just again smiling. It's a strange one. It's a strange one. Very strange. It's so simple. I think maybe because it's such a. I tell you what. When I'm going to clarify when we say simple. It's simple because it's simple from the perspective that you everything you need to focus on is immediate and there in your face. Nothing, if it's not affecting you directly, then it's not affecting you. It's not like it's not let, it's not build, it's not. I have to worry
Just
about,
doing your job.
I have to worry about her emotions, or I have to worry about pissing mum or dad off, or any of that. It's simple from that perspective. What you see is what you get. How you behave is how you interact with the world is if you interact positively. You're going to be treated positively. You interact negatively, you're going to be treated negatively, especially when you're in a CP with a bunch of blokes for that long. Simple does not take away from how fucking complicated it is to deal with a military situation. And for any rank, for any unit, any situation out there, it's epic and something. Clarify that, but it's the smiling. The smiling. Yeah. That in Quadra, the best place in Quadra is you coming out. And again, I was only there for a short time. I was not there for the length of time I was there. But the short time I was there, the best place in Quadrat and the best time was he came off patrol, and they built this. In fact, Conrad had his own little seat right next to it, and his own little bench right next to it. They built this hut, which was like the cookhouse, and they had their own like barbecue, and all the rations were stored in there. And they get all their rations and they put them all in the store, and you'd share all the rations. I hadn't known that from the prison before. And they cook on. They get some food off not locals, off the ANA and the AMP, and they cook it up. And that after patrol, that was the best place to be, because the guys that not going out of patrol, they would all be there to shoot the shit because they were happy. The guys that come in off patrol, and it's all they're banter, slagging each other off. They're eating. The guys that come in, they're getting some water, it's relaxing, and it's crap.
Within the diary, funnily enough, we print these letters, which was a really hard thing to do, but in for a penny, in for a pound, and I think people need to know. The things about the letters were stuff was gone and
letters home.
Yeah, it's bluish.
Yeah.
And two things for me, and this is why it's difficult as well, because there's emotion in there as well, but it's all quite clear what it's after. You've got an incident going on. So an engineer got shot when they were building reinforcing the wall and doors. So in the book, it's man down, blah 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 blah, and explains that fully. Conrad's letter home the day after is, and we've got the engineers here helping us build walls. There's no mention, of course. He's not going to do that, is he? Yeah. But then over time as well, the quality of his handwriting deteriorates. His spelling deteriorates. He starts apologising for his spelling.
Oh really?
I'm running out of biros. He was tired. It's and he's swearing in them, and it's you can track him. And that's why we sort of put them in. But in two of the letters, he talks about we made a bread oven, and we made a barbecue, and we made out of ammo boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
He said we made another oven for the chicken, and we get the chicken. He said because one of the things they did with the locals was get a fridge for the shop.
Right. Yeah.
And he said he's now got chickens, so we had a chicken. And then Bert, Chris, who wrote the diary, for his birthday, he gives the locals like $20 or stuff. Go and get us stuff. But they had these family dinners, didn't they? Waldo was telling me, he said, and a couple of the pictures in the book and that Conrad brought home were of those family dinners. They'd invite the Afghans to them as well.
But the best food I ever ate was that there.
Yeah, he said they lauded it.
But the bread oven, you remind me of the bread. They get the ammo box and they fill in with mud, wet mud. So it goes like concrete, and they put them together and then use them as bricks to build, whatever around like you would in a homemade batter, and do that, keeps the heat.
Mad, and then again, I don't think Conrad was here for that, but for Christmas when somebody delivered fresh meat and a cook, they were like, man.
That's right, chef. That's right, because that's right. There was a chef. There was a chef that used to go around between the PBs. Yeah, between the patrol bases. Yeah, there was a chef. Kamar, I was. Luckily enough, we went all the time because the OC was there, Major Charge. Where HQ was. And then And then they had the other chef that would do stints at each one for a bit of morale for the blokes. Stints at each patrol mates getting between. I think he hated it. I'm trying to remember who the chef was. I'm pounding pigeons all he hated it because to get between each one, he's got to go patrolling. I'm a chef, man. I should be in basket.
Yeah.
You know?
Medic.
Yeah.
But there was another one. One of them is a letter of requests. So this is really funny because he was like, send us food. So I go off to the local camping shop, you know, and I'm getting them, you know, breakfast in a bag and all that sort of stuff. So immediately writes back and goes, mate, this is the same stuff we've got. Don't send us.
You
stuff
send it boil the bags.
Yeah. But I thought it was quality stuff from a camp, you know, camping out, go outdoors, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas his uncle sent him a box of pasta, tomato sauce, and Doritos, and he just went, just got the best box ever.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously they cooked that up. But then he sent a list of requirements, and it was mouse traps because the place and every one is, and it's in there, but it's mouse traps because it were infested with them. Peg, by the way, catch a mouse instantly, and you just see the tail disappear. She still does it. She's really quick. So that's obviously how she lived. But mouse traps, biro, because I can't see this. More batteries for the torch because the torches they give you and the lights here are dog shit, and something else was written in there. Really simple stuff. Yeah. And the two things the blokes had told him to get before he went, which were his rab jacket and a really good sleeping bag, which was a rab sleeping bag. He just kept writing, by the way, these are the best two things I've ever bought in my life. But funny, isn't it? Again, it's not a simple when you're there, but it's a simple request list.
Receiving them parcels is such a morale boost, isn't they?
It is.
Apart from when you get a bag of Haribo, and when you open up, it's just one big melted sweet. Haribo's just, you know, from the heat. It gives you such a morale boost, doesn't it? Having parcels from back home, especially from your family.
On the first tour, on the first tour when I was in Gijaki, before that infamous mine strike.
Have you been to Gijaki?
Yeah, on the first one. And we went. I went from. I sat in Bastion. What was I doing? I sat in. I'm getting mixed up the times here. Long story short, I went from Bastion to Nowzad. I don't know. And we went to be in Nowzad for 8 hours. Oh, is that class? Yeah, like 16 hours or something like that. No, 8 hours. It was 8 hours up in Smash Taliban out. So we went in, light scales, webbing, bolt action, day sack, and went in with that. 5 days later, we're still there. But it was where we were, there was no, we were on a hill with no buildings. This hill was about 15 metres by 15 metres. It was called AMP Mound. Yes, outside the town. There was no overhead cover, nothing. So it was like, and flipping 40 odd degrees in that sun. No, it was hideous, like 5 days. And sporadic contacts in between. And then went from there, got in the choppers to go back to Bastion. And then in the air, got rerouted. No, and I got back to Bastion, the dramas like a jacket. So we got flown like a jacket, like, fuck it, ow. Yeah, still got nothing now, I got nothing. And get like a jacket. And 5 weeks, so 5 weeks in a jacket. Yeah, it took 3.5 weeks to get my Bergen. I had nothing. So 3.5 weeks to get the Bergen. I ended up on what was a hill called Normandy, which is where Super Patrol off and then they got blown up. Normandy. And there was an old Russian trench on top of it. Again, no cover, as an overhead cover. There's an old Russian trench on top of it, and there was a blanket in there, which God knows how old it was. I got the blanket out, right? And it was I didn't even have a spoon to eat my ration for some reason. I think it must have been left on the hill in flipping Nowzad. No spoon. It was an ancient old spoon in the bottom of this trench. Got the spoon out, blanket. It's really sorted. Anyway, I was thinking. I've still got the spoon today.
Fantastic.
And I got it out, and you talked about the parcels, and I mean, you know, you sent out boiling the bag to someone who's eating boiling the bags 24/7. I'm on the hill. My Bergen's still not come, and from back on the other hill where HQ was, where all the guys were, we were like forward in an observation post. Back on the other hill, they got a mail reset, and they came on the radio. You got some mail for you. Excellent. Expected. My mother's parcels are awesome. Like just all sorts of random stuff in there. So the mail gets brought up, and out comes this tube, 5.5 foot long tube, like you get some artwork, like architectural drawings in. And I'm 5 weeks in, no burger, and I've got nothing. I've got like one set of clothes. I'm just a stinking wreck tramp of a man, right? And I open out the parcel is a fucking poster for my. Maybe he thought my dad. Maybe he thought I was in a bedroom. He was.
It's a poster.
He was there. He was head of museums and culture in Swansea at the time. He got the marketing department in Swansea City Council, and he gone, I need a poster made up for my son. He's in Afghanistan. This is his call sign, and he had this 5.5 foot wide, massive thing from a Jackie. Did he have a wall? Never mind, like a bedroom or a wall. I wanted a burger. I wanted food. I wanted like more cigarettes. I was smoking at the time. I get this big fucking tube. Oh my god!
I bet you thought goodies were just going to empty out of it.
Honest to God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. We got better because we were told. So once we got the best parcel I've ever had is from Uncle Rob, then that was fine. But yeah. But of course, they didn't get their parcels and mail regularly either because of where they were.
So
one of the letters is, some stinking hat, blah blah blah. Who'd not, and then it was only when they got back at Christmas that they got the email.
Yeah.
So it was Bluey's up until then. They didn't have the email.
They didn't have it, did they? Yeah, no, that's right. They would come back if they've got a chance to come back to the HQ. They had it with us. Four little like battle laptops there. I remember doing the Christmas run. So it was Christmas Eve or something like that. So Christmas Eve, and all apart because the intelligence sergeant there. And when we're going out, and it was good. I get to go out in the patrol. Well, the event. I got to pick and choose what went out on. So I do the offensive actions, and I wouldn't do like the just normal patrols. I go out and when we're going to attack them. I wouldn't do any of those. But got to help plan the battles and then go out and know the plans. I know which ones are going to be good ones.
Yeah.
And Christmas Eve, we all the Christmas mail came in, so we ended up putting a burger on, filling it full of presents, and then but we had to go at night because it was so many of us get across. You go out and patrolling across at night. Fucking burger on presents. Oh, I hate it. It's like Father Christmas. It was comical. Like 30 Father Christmases all going across. And we got to, I remember the first place we got to was Andy Wallace. He's dead now. We went to Andy Wallace. He got there, burger off, and there's your presents. And then I just empty burger and put it back on, had a brew, and then we traced off back. When we were coming back from that first Father Christmas run, we would come back in the daylight, in the morning, at dawn. And yeah, we got a good contact now. I say good contact. Got a contact coming back, which was amusing. It was Christmas morning, I think it was. That was when one of the guys who shall not be named, he went out and patrolled. So you would Conrad, I can't name it. He went out patrolling his Father Christmas outfit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
His photos of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good one.
It's funny you mentioned Andy Wadders. He was back on R&R for Conrad's repatriation.
Oh, was he?
Waldo was back injured.
Yeah.
So actually, and it helped us a lot. Absolutely helped us a lot because Waldo was just he was there for the funeral, obviously as well. But Wadders was back, and he did the repatriation. He had his 2 weeks leave, and I said, "Well, what have you done?" Like repatriations, a funeral, and something else. That's all he'd spent his time. He said, "I went to see my mum and dad for a couple of days," but he said, "I'm too much for them." So, but he was in Wootton Bassett at the with the I don't know you've done it, but they it's really fabulous what people do there. And one of the pubs put on sandwiches, and the Paras were in one pub, and the RCT guys are in another pub, RLC, sorry. And what was in there holding court. It was utterly brilliant. But he was telling me all that. Him and Waldo told me all that. Once you go look, just crack on. Been there, so I understand stuff. Telling the stories about him and Waldo and the Afghan lottery of their wills and all the other stuff, and what he'd got in his will for how they were going to carry him back. And he just had me.
What was the Afghan lottery? Go on, of the wills? This must be the contract thing again, was it?
Yeah, well, it's Waldo and Wadders thing.
Oh, right,
which was. I'm sure Waldo will tell me if it's wrong or not, but they'd got insurance policies against each other. So if one of them died, he got the money, and they called it the Afghan lottery. So when Waldo came back, this is one of the things. When Waldo came back injured, he went, "I'm looking good for the lottery, aren't I?" So he had to go back. But all that stuff really, really helped when they're having the crack, and again for our extended family as well. So my brother and and my kids and the nephews listening to these good guys crack on because they could absolutely relate Conrad to what they were talking about.
Yeah.
It sort of put you there a little bit, but put you at ease in that.
Yeah.
You know, he loved it. He was cracking on. He was doing this. He was doing that. What always stands in my mind because gnarly dude.
He's a character, isn't he?
What's I've not done Wooden Basset. So I've seen it.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen televised the cars come through, but how does it work?
Yeah, it's all completely unofficial. This is the other thing, right? So it's started with them, well, obviously with the locals doing it, as I understand it.
How did it work? I should say, doesn't it?
Yeah, but Conrad was one of the that year was the last for that, and then it went obviously up to Brides. But we had a funny one on the day. This is typical, isn't it? We had a funny one on the day because we've been there for hours. The planes come in.
How long after it?
2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. I think maybe a bit short than that. It feels like that. Maybe 10 days. But the rear doors on the Herc wouldn't work. So
when they came in.
Yeah, and they want to do it ceremonially. You know, they want to park in front of you. There's like a dais with, marquee that's up and chairs, and you're sitting there. Yeah. But they want the Herc to come in and for it to go down and for them to be carried off properly. And so the doors wouldn't open, so they had to get them out through the side door. I mean, deep down in my head, my lad's pissing himself as well at this point. Yeah. He loved the fact that it was just chaos. Mm-hmm. And then they had to put them on another plane, which then just drove them to the front. But that was like a couple of hours delay at least. We're all going, what's going on? What's going on? Now, typically the reg, the support we had there and everybody that was there, I mean, just lots. And really supportive. But then, like the British Legion Riders branch managed Wotton Bassett.
Motorbike one.
Yeah. So there's a massive, I can't remember his name, massive guy with a staff. And he'd organise people and he'd just shoot people and go, the families will be here because this is where the cars will stop, so get away. So once they'd landed, we'd been into a chapel to see the guys in their coffins. That they're shut at the time, but you can go and say hello to the chapel of rest. That was all nice and brilliantly done.
Is that on camera?
Yeah, on camera. So just a little. So they come out of the plane, carried off, obviously with an honour guard. They go into the hearses. The hearses go around. They go out of there and into a chapel of rest, and you just go and stand by the coffin and stuff. And then they go off to the coroner, and you go to Wotton Bassett. Again, this is all automatic. The two of the pubs will be the Para pub. You'll be the RLC pub. Okay, and these guys had organised everybody, but Conrad had a massive amount of mates.
RLC pub.
Or some RLC guys died on Camp Bastion in the same time. So Lewis and Conrad came back, and then a number of other RLC guys came back. But they sort of split the pubs for the right reason. And you pull up in these the Galaxies that we were in, which I then found out were rented by Support Our Paras or the Afghanistan Trust at the time. You get out of the car and these guys, British Legion guys, just marshal you into space. But it's crazy. I had people I'd worked with years ago, maybe met Conrad as a kid or not, or knew me. And because Stratford is close enough to Wotton Bassett, there were hundreds there, maybe 150, 200 people that we knew. And then you're bumping into people, like guys I served with, who'd come up from South Wales and stuff and going, no, it's this. And you just kept seeing people, but now it's dark because they're late. You just bumping into people and it was like incredible, absolutely incredible. But that's the first time where you actually release stuff. Because again, you're surprised, you go, what are you doing here? Come see a boy type stuff. Reg blokes who were on leave. Yeah, so we had a couple of other people. So Ray Mears came to see us.
Oh, really?
He was on leave at the time, so he'll be with us this weekend on our motorbike ride. And they've all kept in touch with us as well. So, Dan's a fireman now. So I have to call him Dan now and call him Radio. And he was there. Other people who were on leave were there. And
Dan?
Dan Mears. Ray's name is Daniel. But
his name is Protector, you say? You just ruined that, haven't you? Brilliant.
So, so it... I always let it slip.
It's not everything's going out loud. It's fine.
No, it's all right. Yeah.
I don't know.
And other secrets. Yeah. But that was cracking. It's really strange thing, but it's the first one where you go, blows your mind. One of Conrad's mates, painter and decorator, he couldn't get the time off work, and he just kept texting everybody saying, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" And somebody just texted him and said, "Oh, I think there's a delay." Oh, good. And he was just there in his overs. He just jumped in his van, shot to Wootton Bassett, got there just in time. It's stuff like that you think, you know what? An incredible experience. The people of Wootton Bassett should be incredibly proud of what they do.
It shows so many people in. I remember my dad. He ended up going up. He started going up there for repatriations. He didn't know them. The units had no affiliation to our unit, but it is. It's incredibly sad. I wouldn't wish what you guys have gone through on my worst enemy. But then, like you said, we Wootton Bassett. That played a big part in my mind, I think, in the support, the public opinion of the people, men and women who had served up there. The ability for the public opinion to get behind those, whether or not they thought Afghan was a good idea or not.
Regardless.
I think it did play a massive part in that. I was gutted when it changed, because of that reason.
It just didn't quite work after that. The bit where they stop and everybody's throwing flowers and stuff. That's incredible because
Well, they stop on what, sir?
So as they're going through Wootton Bassett, there's a guy walking in front of them,
the
cane as they do in front of a normal funeral cortege. But as they got to sort of where the families are again, Legion had arranged it. They stopped. So you knew which car your lad was in, and you're throwing flowers onto it, and all that, and all their mates are. And as they then take off again, there's people just piling flowers onto these cars. So they stop at one point because they can't see.
Right.
And then
Wow.
incredible. But all that, as you said before, that's like all the support of people, and you go, right, okay, you're not on your own in this, are you? And what had been done is respected. But funnily enough, Conrad got Christmas leave. I just knew with everything he was doing, and then you get Christmas leave, you go, right, this looks running out here, mate. This is too much. And when he got back at Christmas, funnily enough, Kate was in Helmand going to visit Joe's because they were doing Christmas band tour, and she was going to visit Joe's stone, where that the Reggie put up front at the time. So all that was incredible. It was in the local paper and all that. And that affected Conrad a bit, just looking at this and going, it's great she's out there doing this stuff, and the Reggie have got her there. And he just turned to me and said, "Oh, by the way, if anything happens, just crack on with it, get on with it."
Oh, Conrad.
Yeah. He must have known that they'd had a few close shaves, and so I was right, okay. And that the getting on with it actually conflicts with this because we're not actually getting on with it, we're getting on doing something else. But again, that and combined with what was in his mention in dispatches is what's behind this. Because one of the citations was he led every patrol he could. He wouldn't take relief, and that was the thing. He led every patrol. He'd insist on doing that, and we know he's got a bit of OCD. So once they've not had an incident, if he doesn't do it again, it's a problem. But as part of that citation, it said he'd do anything for his mates, including putting his life in a position of most danger on a daily basis. And that's the bit. All right, do anything for his mates. All right, so he's not here. I have to get on with it. We'll get on with it doing that. So we'll carry on doing stuff for his mates. And you saw what was being provided for injured and bereaved families, actually, for us as well. Luckily, we could crack on, but there was other people, and you think, well, there's nothing there for them. But then also the injured blokes. And what we've actually done now is with Support Our Paras, we set up a welfare fund last year for pre-mental health interception, if you like. So I was like, I want to support the PTSD and without understanding the position on it. So it's like, well, can't define it that much. So it's a well-being fund where they can spot a bloke who's in trouble and spend money on that. So we've committed to an amount of money for 3 years. Hopefully it'll help with that. I know we gave the check on the Saturday and they were using the money on the Tuesday.
For Support Our Paras? Yeah. Well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, and something I didn't realise until earlier this year or late last year, is that with the small charities, the small organisations, is that is that I've spoken about it before, but I ended up under the wing of Help the Heroes for a little bit, and a friend of an old colleague of mine killed himself a few years back, and SAFA dealt with him. SAFA repatriated him, and well, it was their stamp on it, SAFA.
Yeah.
But the majority of the money, and I don't know from my perspective in Help the Heroes, but I'm guessing it's the same. Well, in fact, I know it's the same. Is that any money involved for things, for courses, for whatever it may be? With Ronnie, his repatriation cost a lot of money, and that money didn't come from SAFA. Well, a small proportion it may have, but I know the majority of it, if not all of it, came from smaller charities.
Yeah.
So SAFA give the money to the family, or SAFA pay the money to the repatriating company, or whatever. That money comes from one of the places it comes from is the unit charity. So if pick a unit, Royal Logistics Corps person, got killed, touch wood, or doesn't happen, and they need repatriating because he's outside the military, for example, maybe he's on holiday or he's out or whatever. Then the family gets in touch with SAFA, or someone gets in touch with SAFA. SAFA goes straight to the Royal Logistics Charity HQ or their association, and then they front the money up. And then the money goes back to SAFA. SAFA pay the money to... SAFA did an amazing job, don't be wrong. They are the face of it. If they didn't exist, then maybe the family would get no money. Or no assistance. I keep saying money. It's not just money assistance. It's not just financial. It's all sorts of different assistance. But I should know. So when certainly in Ronnie's case, when the family think, oh my God, SAFA are amazing, and they do a lot of fundraising stuff. I ended up doing fundraising stuff for SAFA after Ronnie got repatriated. I thought, right, SAFA helped them out. Fellas, his closest mates, let's get together, let's do something in memory of Ronnie and get some money back to SAFA. And then I subsequently found out that the money didn't come from SAFA. It came from his unit charity with Power Rangers Association. So they didn't get the money. The money that we raise goes to SAFA. They don't go, have your money back, support our powers. It's one of those. A really interesting point you raised up with the smaller charities. But then part of the problem with that part of the problem with that is so many scumbags setting up smaller charities and organisations. There's something. Where did I get this figure from? 4,000. Where did I get this figure from? Nothing of the show. 4,000. Something like 4,000 registered military-oriented charities in the UK. Not worldwide. In the UK. Yeah. In the UK, and the majority of them have got to be a significant proportion of them must be below us.
We had a really great supporter and called Kelly, and she supported us. We released this song that had been written locally by a friend of ours and then recorded. It's really cool. And, Soldier on It's called. We played it at our ball, and actually so Andrew James, who eventually put it to music and sings it, just a genius. He's local to Stratford. He's in a lot of the townhouse and places like that. Does a load of weddings. Good guy. But they Kelly helped us promote this. I mean, manically. She got binned off Twitter. They thought she was spam in the end. She did so many. They're just utterly brilliant. But she set up a stall on Forces Day. She runs like an American diner, and she set one up in Leamington Spa, and asked me if I could put some kind of banners up on the posters for the charity. And then next to her was one of those scouse scumbag organisations, and she went mad because there's old boys walking up and giving them 20 quid, and they call it admin fee. Their admin fee was 80%.
Nice.
Yeah, and that
nice.
And
strong.
And all they said to us was, it's spit grim Yuri because you're going to lower our taking. She went, "Oh, you haven't seen the half yet." I mean, they met their match with her. And one of the things we do as the charity is we always make sure what the admin costs are of any of the people we donate to. So we paid for a room in Fisher House because blokes are going back there and families are going back there. And I think Fisher House, the QE, has got the largest admin percentage of anybody that we deal with. But it was something like 21% for that. And actually, I expected it to be so much more given what they have to do. Yeah. And you're like, well, that's incredible as well. But now's ad's running costs are minimal. The sport our para's running costs, and again, because you can define what it goes into, it can go into the wellbeing fund, where it can support a particular event. And we've chosen to buy things. So again, for the forces support, we'll buy a van for a couple of years. We'll buy a cement mix. We'll buy tools. It just helps because it drives me mad as well. You look at and I always go and have a delve in, look at the admin costs, and I'm always really delighted to say, obviously ours is a family trust, so there's no cost at all. And I always quote, I said, I even buy the frigging stamps, but it's that's how it should be. That's what it's for. And when people give me £1, I want them to know that pound is going to that person there. Worst case, 20p might be paying for some of the staff. So,
what was the ride you're talking about Saturday?
So it's called Conrad's Ride, and it's a motorbike event. We leave from Ragley Hall, get there about 9. Ragley Hall's in Ulster. It's a big state.
Ulster?
Just down the other side of Stratford.
The other side of
Ulster?
Stratford.
ULST?
No, Alcester, if you like.
Yeah,
no, you can imagine.
The game fair's there shortly, isn't it, at the end of the month?
But we assemble there at 9:30, leave by about 11. But again, this is how fabulous it is. It's a stately home, weddings and tours, but the Marquis gives it us for nothing. He likes 250, 300 motorbikes on his lawn on a Saturday morning, right? What a brilliant bloke. Just like, no, boys, it's yours. We get some bacon sarnies, tea, coffee, and then we at 11 o'clock we set off. We go through Warwickshire in convoy. We've got outriders. It's a really well organised event. We go through Claverden, the village where Conrad's born. We ruined Claverden, 250 motorbikes last year. You can imagine. We go past the church where he's buried.
In fact, we just drove through.
Oh, is he buried?
He's in Claverden,
We just drove through there on the way.
At the church, by the way, of St Michael and All Saints, the patron saint, the parachute regiment. All this bizarre stuff goes on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's in there with a military grave as well. But we go past that and they all rev the bikes too with the horns. It's chaos. Then we go to Warwick Castle. All my kids worked at Warwick Castle, including Conrad. He was as bad in Warwick Castle as he was when you met him. But they let us park up on tournament fields for nothing. They like 250 bikes there. They open it up. We have an hour around there. Then we eventually land at Old Leamingtonians Rugby Club in Leamington Spa, where it's bands and beers until the night, overnight camping.
It's this Saturday.
Yeah.
That's the Kenilworth. Yeah. Is it the Kenilworth Road?
It's just off. Yes, just off. Yeah, it's in between the. Yeah. Good do the big guys there. So Ray's coming with his missus. He's camping out. We've had 2 years ago. Actually, the BBC filmed it 2 years ago, which is a bit crazy. BBC Wales did it. Would you believe?
Did they?
Yeah.
Why did you say Wales? Why did you say Wales?
Good bloke. That's what I was thinking.
It's like earlier you said scouse and scumbag in the same sentence.
I'm allowed to. As a United fan. They filmed it, but Cheesy was there, Chris Burtonshaw was there, Luke was there.
Cheesy
Royal. Chris Royal,
You know, there's two of them, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, was there?
He's the younger one.
No.
The other one's called Shit Lips.
No, you got Shit Lips. You got
Shit
Lips and Shit Lips Junior.
Yeah.
No.
So Shit Lips one is Cheesy, who's we've known him for years.
Mega bloke, mega professional soldier. Was in the staff of the seniors.
God, grumpy man.
Yeah.
He is just grumpy. He lives. He lives the best life anyone ever wished for. Right. I mean, this is. I mean, talk about this is the kind of guy he is. And you think, why are you grumpy? He stood an ID right, which blew up, and he got away with a fractured heel. He stood on the ID. It blew him up. He got away with a fractured heel. Right, honest to God. And he lives now. He's got a house up in. He's not Welsh. He's English. He's got a house up in North Wales. Got 2 dogs. He works when he fancies it. He goes out on his motorbike. You have a conversation with him. It's like, how's it going? He was out sailing the other way. He's short and grumpy. Chris is very much like him, except taller and less grumpy. More likeable. Shitlift Senior won't mind me saying that. Your younger brother is more likeable, Cheesy.
Yeah, definitely. That's how they come across. Both mega lads.
Yeah,
really
brilliant guys.
Oh, so I say the ride 2 years ago, they all came back, and the only problem was the BBC guy was like wanting to film stuff and have reunions. I was like, oh God, this is unbelievable. Anyway, we had a great time, and there's a great band on the finish, a young band called Erica. 3-piece band, do all their own music, will be bloody massive, absolutely huge. They should be now. They're from Gloucestershire, and they're utterly brilliant. Do it for nothing. Have done, and I've always said, because I've said you will be massive. He went, yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll still do this. We'll still do this for nothing because we get it. No, they're 20 now. They were 22, so mid late 20s now. But as the filming's going on, the guys just said to me, he said, "You do know we'll be streaking in front of that, don't you, in a minute?" Yeah, obviously. And the producers going, they won't be doing that. Yeah, Kit will be off. And it, within minutes, whoop, whoop.
I can't believe you got out. Can't believe you got out. You should have stayed and seen a great story.
Yeah.
His
dad now.
Yeah, his dad now. Amazing.
Cool.
We obviously, if I come over Saturday, we're gonna get Ray on. We're gonna get Ray on this.
Yeah.
That's the mission.
Cool. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
You sound skeptical. We'll get him on.
No, I'm sure he'll. Yeah, I should do as well. That'd be fabulous.
Definitely get Ray on.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, this Saturday. That'd be good.
So it's
good. So you do that ride every year?
Well, funnily enough, this year because it's a friend of ours, Nick Ward and his family, who run it. We sort of just turn up, and I think it was getting a bit much for Nick, and he did say, "Look, I think this is health-wise and all the other stuff. I think this is probably the last one I'll do." And I was interviewed by Touch FM, and to do a little video version of it, and I said it was the last one because people went nuts. So it won't be
last year or this year?
No, this year. So it won't be the last one because people have rung Nick and now he's got people who volunteered to help. He took a lot on himself, and it's really hard, and it's really weather dependent.
Yeah.
So if it's sunny, 250. Who knows? 500. You don't know, but I'm sure there'll be 250 there.
How's the cost covered then?
There aren't really any costs.
Nick's
utterly brilliant. Marquis gives it for free. Warwick Castle for free. Old Leamingtonians, it's free, and we just use their bar, so they get takings over the bar. None of the bands have paid. Nick's rabid, and that's why it's hard to organise. If somebody wants to charge something, he asks why.
Yeah.
And then for the last few years as well, Martin Dickinson, who runs the Ride to the Wall, he started the motorbike Ride to the Wall, and
what's that?
Again, this is about 20,000 motorbikes up to the Arboretum, and it raises money for the Arboretum. And that's grown from 1,000 or a couple of thousand to 20,000.
That's an amazing place up there.
And I think they've given a $250,000 now. No, because you pay a tenner to go on that. And it's the same with the bike. So our bike ride is £5 to get in, £5 to get in at Old Leamingtonians, another £5 if you want to camp, because there's camping there. So we get that, and then we raise money at the auction and stuff. But it's fabulous. And it's now not the last year, so good. We're really pleased with that. But the weather looks good for Saturday.
Definitely, yeah.
So it'd be a good old do.
Yeah, it's good. I'm getting my bike license. Yeah, I've got my theory test in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I know, yeah. Pass it. Should be revising now.
I've got my license. I've just never had a bike. Just motocross bikes. Should get one there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is one of the last emails to me was about buying a GSX R600. Fuck on it. I've ridden bikes all my life. He's ridden bikes since he was 16. That was his first piece of freedom. And nonsense and madness. He'd actually had a motocross bike since he was 3. So the bike was really important. But the last, and this is typical as well, the last email I said,
from Conrad.
Yeah, next to last was we'll get this GSXR when you get back, because he'd seen it, he knew the one he wanted. I said, but squaring that away with your mum. He said, I'll use my tour money to pay for it, and you just pay me back. Oh right, well, I am buying you the bike. But anyway, so we went and bought the bike anyway. So his brother rides it.
I still got it.
Yeah. And it's classic. But it's a great event, and again, it's people coming together for the right causes. And
so how does 353 raise money at the minute, events wise?
Yeah, no, we have a ball every year, or have done. So on the anniversary, and around that weekend, this year it's actually on the 9th. So it's 9th February at Warwick School.
It's actually my birthday. I'll never forget it. Cause, every birthday comes up.
It's nice.
I feel bad because I want to put pictures of me celebrating everything, but all the guys are putting up, RIP things, Lewis and Conrad. Yeah. And I feel jack if I don't, because it feels like I'm not acknowledging it.
That's really hard.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, isn't it? So. That's that. Yeah, 9th
Oh, well.
February.
Well,
There'll be a ball. Maybe
you
me and the
would-
missus will come along.
Thing
on
is,
the
that'll be
ball
amusing,
instead.
Conrad. That'll be amusing him.
Oh, yeah,
He's
would
ruined Joe's birthday.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord,
that's
absolutely.
it. Typical. Bloody Lewis and Conrad.
I had this the other day when, so again, the Peace Garden, they built this beautiful wicker structure in the middle, like the head of design and art, and the sixth formers. Absolutely brilliant. And then that nasty storm we had in December blew it away. And they've created another one and staked it in, and they were saying, it's a shame because it was beautiful. I said, he'd wet himself that it blew away. He'd absolutely loved the fact it blew away and destroyed somebody's garden 200 metres away or something like that. But yeah, so we have the ball every year. The Rugby for Heroes, that was last year and it's finished, but they're going to do a beer festival instead because they can't stop. So great guys. We do the golf event, which always raises a lot of money.
Where did that happen?
That's at the Warwickshire.
Ah, I've not played it yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
You play with us.
Where's the ball being held up?
It's at Warwick School. And,
Right, yeah. Warwick
again-
Boys School.
Yeah,
Yep.
but there's a
Great.
massive place there called the Guy Nelson Hall, which got rebuilt. It could be anywhere in London as a.
Yes,
It's a
nice
bloody
place,
brilliant
yeah.
venue. So we get 300 people packed in that. Quadrat lads come back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it gets really messy, really
Okay,
messy.
well,
And yeah, you're more than welcome. But we raise a lot of money at that. Lookers PLC, the car group, they raised money for us for the last 3 years, doing a track day, and then the construction industry in London that my brother had always raised money for UNICEF with them. That stopped, but they wanted to do something, so they go to the Lake District and do challenges, and it's called Dig Deep.
Okay.
And they've regularly raised £25,000 at each event for us. It's crazy. And then we've done stuff. So we cycled to Paris.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
We did that a number of years ago. I didn't realise it was a race. That was a bit crazy. But that
Was it not meant to be a race?
there's six groups, so yeah, I didn't realise. I just thought we were going to be pedalling away, but it's 230 miles to Paris, and we did 110 mile a day.
From where? Warwick?
No, it was London to Paris.
Okay, so
Yeah. And I was like, well, it's not 330 miles. No, we take a long route and we go up hills and we do sprints. It's like the tour. What am I doing this for? But luckily it was 6 graded groups, and we were all in the 6th group because we were proud. But really hard work. So we've done that. And Paris 10, lots of people do the Paris 10 for us and have done traditionally.
The Colchester one.
We've always done Catterick because of the pain, but never done it with weight. You can imagine. I carry that around on my stomach now. I don't need a burger. Just eat it.
Yeah.
But lots of people have done that. And the most emotional one for that, if I can, we took Peg the dog up, and Conrad's sister Siobhan was wanted to do it that year as well. His brothers had done both. So Jordan's done both. And we took Peg, and she went, "Oh, I'll remember the dog." Okay. Little did we know that she was one of the few women to run with the dog, and they have a canicross equivalent, don't they? So there's the bloke with the husky who always wins the men's, and Siobhan with Peg won the women's. And a bloke said you couldn't get much more emotional than the next prize I'm going to give out. Conrad's sister running with Conrad's dog from Helmond, who just won the canicross event.
Really?
You were like blown away.
Yeah.
She won't do it again now, Peg. She'd hate it.
Do you know how old she is?
We think she's about 9. She'd had 1 litter of pups, which she'd had at Quadrat. And they said you can judge the dog's age by how many litters of pups they've had. She'd be 18 months when she came into the season. She'd have had the litter of pups, so she's about 2. So we think she's 9. She's going grey now. And, the one thing, she's incredibly territorial. So again, she will have barked at you and your dog running up Yarningale Lane easily. She just patrols the door, and it drives you mad. But
where I come from. Anything you want to, before we wrap it up? Any? Well, if you want to mention anyone, if you want to talk about anything.
no, if people have liked what we've said, I guess our website's 353.org.uk. That tells people what we're doing, what we have done. We try and celebrate what's going on. Tells them about the events.
Can anyone tune up on Saturday to the right?
Everybody and anybody.
So just give the time into that.
So again, 9:30 we start to assemble at Ragley Hall in Ulster.
Yeah.
Get there for 9:30. We leave at 11. So if you can't make 9:30, if you can get there for 10 to 11, that's fine. You'll just be going straight back out on your bike. it was in front of the hall for previous years. They've got a wedding, so we're now down at what they call the pavilion. I think that'd be great. It's my little lake. There's bacon sarnies, tea, coffee, and all that. So that's 9:30 till 11. Then we set off. If you've not got a bike, makes no odds. Get yourself to Old Leamingtonians. It's quite a sight. 250 bikes riding in, and we've got some surprises planned in the afternoon.
What time will the bikes start coming in?
They should arrive at about 1:30.
Okay.
But then we've got bands kick in about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it goes through till 11 o'clock. So you can go at any time in that, come in and out, whatever you like. But the band's a good session. If the weather's like this, it'll be fabulous. And people will stay in. I think people are getting used to know what's going on. But that's the next event, and that'll be brilliant. Anybody who could support it. So if you've got a bike, a moped, a scooter, it doesn't matter. L plates, none of it matters, because we ride so slowly that anybody can join in.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank yourself. I wish that I didn't meet you, mate. To be honest, I wish I didn't meet you, but in the circumstances, I'm glad I did.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure.
It's
Pleasure
been
to
an
meet you.
absolute pleasure. And yeah, thanks for having me along. Good to meet you at last.
Live feed. See you later, live feed.
I wonder if anyone watches it live.